Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Toastmasters International Speechcraft program. This is session 3 of 4. I am the Speechcraft coordinator. My name is Teresa Banks. I also go by the nickname of Terry, and I'm a DTM. That stands for Distinguished Toastmaster, which is the highest level that one can reach in the Toastmasters International organization. As I mentioned during sessions 1 and 2, we have 5 individuals that have enrolled in this particular Speechcraft program. They are known as Speechcrafters, and we see them pictured and named here. I also mentioned during sessions 1 and 2 that we have 8 individuals that have volunteered to deliver a speech during all 4 of the Speechcraft sessions. They are known as our presenters, and we have been hearing from 2 of them at each of our individual sessions. We see all of them named and pictured here. Our agenda is now before us. I'm going to begin by providing the timing constraints to our presenters. I will then introduce our very first presenter. We will hear his speech, and then we will have a question-answer session. I will then introduce our second presenter. We will hear her speech, and then we will have a question-answer session. And then we will hear from our speech crafters by way of a roundtable discussion. And then last but certainly not least, I will close out our Speechcraft program for the day. With our 2 different presenters, they have certain timing that they must go by as far as the constraints are concerned. And with both of the speakers, they will be talking for 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to assist them in knowing exactly where they are with that timing by changing the color of my background. At the 8-minute mark, I will change it to the color of green. At the 9-minute mark, I will change it to yellow. And at the 10-minute mark, I will change it to red, at which time both of our presenters will be given an additional 30 seconds to wrap up their speech. Our first presenter we are going to hear from in just a moment, Gerald Crawford. He has reached level 4 in Toastmasters International Pathways program known as Innovative Planning. And his speech title today is Make the Audience Yours. Gerald Crawford has been a member of Toastmasters for decades and has been associated with 4 clubs located in 3 different states. He's currently part of the Manassas Toastmasters Club in Virginia and the New Faith Toastmasters Club in Illinois. He's an award-winning speaker who's won multiple first-place trophies at the club, area, and division levels for international speech and table topics contests. Tonight, he'll deliver a speech that will help us understand how to know our purpose. Please help me welcome Gerald Crawford.
Good evening, everyone. I hope each and every one of you are having a great evening. The first thing we want to talk about is history. One thing that Teresa Banks always teaches me is know your history. So I'm going to first start with a few simple questions that I'd like to get from you out there in Speechcraft land. Can anybody tell me what year did the first Mayor Daley get elected in the city of Chicago? Okay, I see so many people have not raised their hand and have not given me an answer. So I will help you here. It was 1955, April 1955. Now, another one is more fun. The greatest place on earth is Disneyland in California. Does anybody remember what year Walt Disney opened up Disneyland in California?
Gerald, I
Again,
don't know, but
everybody's,
if you are advancing your slides, we can't see them.
I have not advanced them yet.
My
Thank you.
apologies.
That's okay. Love to hear from you. Anyway, the answer to the second question is 1955. Does anybody know the year that Emmett Till, who got killed in Money, Mississippi, and kicked off the new civil rights movement? Anybody know what year he passed?
1950,
With help.
1955.
We're gonna guess.
Wow, that was awesome.
I'm catching on. I'm catching on.
I got one last one to ask you. There was a great actor by the name of James Dean. He got killed in a car accident. The only movie that he's famous for is Rebel Without a Cause. Does anybody know what year he got in a fatal car accident?
Could that be 1955?
Woo! Elizabeth, you're a genius. Wow, this is awesome. I didn't know there was so much intelligence and history out there. Anyway, I share that with you because a lot of people ask, how do you remember things in the past? What I would ask each of you to do is to look up the year that you was born and look at some of the key events that happened, and then you'll always remember them throughout time. And that's how I remember them, because if you look up here, I gave you a hint. December 6, 1955 is my birthday. So 1955 was the year that I was born. So I'm not going to ask you what year. Anybody know what year that I was born? I couldn't hear you, but
1955.
you're right, 1955. Awesome. Now I am going to advance. Now I think I'm going to advance the my screen. We're going to talk about you need to know your audience. Whenever you give a presentation, it's very important to know your audience. And what do you need to do when you get started on your audience? One, I would say, make sure that if you use makeup, which I don't use, make sure that's correct. And if you have hygiene, you want to go to wherever who wants you to speak, you want to have good hygiene and self-care. Self-care can be things like pedicures, manicures, the right type of clothes on. These are the things that you need to have so that you know your audience. And I'd also say, know your subject. And how do you know your subject? And these days, do a little research. There's this new invention out there called the internet, where you can go to Google or anything and you can find out much of what you wanted to see. An example that I can give, a few years ago, I gave a speech on Emmett Till, which I knew about, but when I did the speech, I said, well, I didn't want anybody to know more about it than I did. And I found out so much stuff about him. And I was able to read the article in Look magazine that talked about him and saw an actual video of the person who got paid $4,000 to know about what happened. And he got paid from Look magazine. But there's so much stuff that I didn't know that I got to know through research, because you can go to Google, YouTube, see videos and a whole lot of things what everybody else had. I would also encourage you, number two, I have to say, is to meditate. A man by the name of Dr. Dwayne Dwyer, who has since passed, he did a book called Your Erroneous Zones. He had a situation where he could not understand what his daughter was doing. So what he did, he meditated and tried to look at things as if he was a 16-year-old, like his daughter was, and that helped him to relate more. When you have people you are talking to, they're not going to always have the same experiences that you have. They may be younger, they may be older, they may come from different backgrounds. Try to look at them from their point of view and not just your point of view. Another place to get information is movies. There are so many movies out there. Even in Emmett Till, there was a movie called Till about 2 or 3 years ago that I know a lot of people probably did not see, but I thought it was a great movie. If you have an audience, what you don't want them to do is to fall asleep. If they fall asleep, it's sort of a big turnoff to you as a speaker. And the way to make sure that you have them at least involved is to keep good eye contact, which we teach in Toastmasters. Look around at different points of the audience. And I also want to say you want to own your speaking real estate. Whenever you have an opportunity to speak, people are going to tell you how much, where it starts and where it ends. And sometimes what I've done and seen other people do, when they see people that are falling asleep, they walk toward that person while they're speaking. And as you get close to the person, what happens a lot of time unconsciously, they decide, well, gee, maybe I need to wake up to this speech. And knowing that real estate will help you do that. If you just stay in one place, very monotone, and don't say anything and don't excite your audience, then they will check out. And you want to keep them excited and in. Next, I always say you don't want to be speaking like it's a funeral. I know all of us have to leave one day, but if your speech makes somebody so bored that they're like, gee, I'd rather be in a coffin than to listen to Teresa Banks speak that same subject again, or speak to Sandra Lane or Elizabeth or Dr. Keacham. If you got them feeling like they want to go into a casket, that's not a good thing. That's not very positive for your speaking skills and your reputation. Also, you should have joy. Have joy when you speak. Be happy about what you're talking about. And smile. There's nothing wrong with smiling. There's so many things in the news that will make you frown that a smile will help you uplift you a little bit and uplift those around you. In summary, what's important to talk about is language. And of course, I decided to skip that slide in the beginning because it's just so much fun to have technical difficulties. But when I talk about language, if I was talking to you and say the term DTM, all of you probably know, well, gee, that's a distinguished Toastmaster. But if you got somebody who's just walking into a new club or to your space, which used to happen to me all the time, when I would say DTM, one of the people say, well, what does that mean, Mr. Crawford? And then I'd have to go back and say, well, gee, that's distinguished Toastmasters. We all speak in a language, whatever we do. For example, in the Army, different ranks are different. For example, a captain, we use the term CPT because that's an abbreviation for captain. When I'm talking about to some of my ethnic friends about CPT, it has something to do with time. That's a different use of the word of those initials. And you, of course, have fun. To you, Madam Speechcrafter.
All right. Thank you so much, Gerald, for your incredible speech. It was definitely appreciated, well pulled together. And I have no doubt that our speech crafters will have some questions for you. And you get a break today because you are doing double duty as a speech crafter as well as a presenter. And thank you again for doing so. Start by asking Elizabeth if she has any questions for you. Elizabeth?
I don't have any questions. Well, I do have a question. I think that when you when you just talked about the language, you gave a really great example. And is there anything else that you were going to tell us since we didn't see that slide? Is there anything else that was left out?
Thank you for asking me for that question. What I was going to make a point of is that almost every particular group that you're in has their own way of talking, and you get so used to it. Like in the military, there was a lot of things that you get used to. You put a map up, and there'd be a line that'd be the LDLC, and for a lot of people, that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Now, to those of us in the military, we know that's a line of departure, line of contact, and that's where we get ready to go for our next mission. But if somebody's just coming in and looking at it, they don't know what you're talking about until you explain it to them. Toastmasters, where you work at, every place has their own way of talking. In order to relate to the audience, they need to understand what some of these things mean. You have to break it down a little bit and not take some of your language for granted. And that's what I wanted to put more emphasis in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Gerald, for that response. Let's go to Dr. Keisha. Any questions from you?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I really just have a comment for Gerald. You always give such entertaining speeches. You're always very humorous to me. So my question to you is, have you ever considered stand-up?
I have not considered it. Eddie Murphy hasn't had a chance to come to me and give me some advice. But if I could, it'd be nice. But no, I have not considered that. Thank you. You're very kind.
That's it for me.
All right. I love that comment. Thank you, Dr. Keisha. Let's go now to Letitia. Any questions from you, Letitia?
Thank you, Madam Speechcraft Coordinator. Gerald, great presentation. And as our other Speechcrafters have commented, you always bring great humor to your conversations and your storytelling. So thank you for that. I don't have a question, but I guess I'll ask you, what do you do with your hands, your body movement when you're on stage presenting to a crowd? Because I'm not sure if we touched on that. We did say take advantage of your stage presence, but what do we do with our hands?
Thank you for that question. What we do with our hands, Letitia, a lot depends on your subject. Like yesterday at a Toastmasters, they were talking about Star Wars, and I told the guy there's so many things to do with Star Wars, like you could fly the ship and do certain things. And you can always go from one point to another. Using your hands and your gestures is very important. In fact, that's a very important part of giving a speech is your gestures. One, you need to do your gestures enough to keep people interested. And two, don't do so many gestures that it takes away from the points that you're trying to make.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Okay.
Letitia.
Thank you, Letitia. And Gerald, you're not off the hook yet. Let's go to Gail. Gail, any questions from you for Gerald?
Hi, yes. Well, thank you, Madam Speechcraft Coordinator. Gerald, that was a wonderful speech. I do have a question, and that is if you have a mixed audience, you say, elderly or in children or mixed culturals, different cultures. And okay, so what do you say the best way to coordinate that if you are kind of like unprepared and all of a sudden you see there's a different group of people than you had expected has joined. So how would you handle that? Or how should I handle that, based on the information?
I think a lot depends on your subject. One of the things, if you're in more than one Toastmasters club, like if I talk to the club in Chicago, that's a more ethnically diverse one. If I talk to one in Manassas, that's one when I give a speech, I'm wondering if somebody's going to come out with a rope and put me on a tree. There are two different types of clubs, and you try to look at your subject and put it down the middle where you can give them the best points. An example I can give you is that once I talked about the subject of the Green Book, and I was telling them that there was a time when Black folks couldn't go to like a restaurant or something like that because of the fact that they weren't allowed. Some places didn't allow you to go if you were of African American descent. And when I gave it to one club understood everything automatically. Another club, which didn't have any of those experiences, asked me, what the hell was I talking about? So you're going to go through that from time to time. I think you have to have some patience and try to teach people something that they haven't seen before if you have that difference. If you have different cultures. Also, a good thing to do in different cultures, if you can speak a little bit of the language. For example, Taylor Swift says whenever she goes to another country, she greets them in the language of that country. She still sings in English, but she greets them in their language. And it's always good to try to greet people in a way that they can understand you the best that you can. Thank you.
Wait, thank you for that. And I'm going to keep in mind the point I take for that, make it a teaching moment. And that's very powerful there. So thank you for that answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail and Gerald. Thank you again for speaking tonight. And as a side note, since you are one of our speech crafters, you will receive credit toward a Toastmasters International Pathways level speech. And so I will be in touch with you in the days ahead. Thank you again.
Well, thank you. My life is complete now.
I knew it would be. I knew it would be. Hello, Toastmasters, and to our special guests that are here. We have another powerhouse speaker that is coming before us. Sandra Lane, distinguished Toastmaster, past district director, will be speaking to us on the topic Command and Connect, the Body Language Advantage. Distinguished Toastmaster Sandra Lane is the immediate past district director for District 103, where she led more than 80 clubs across Chicagoland during Toastmasters International's 100th anniversary year. With 14 years of Toastmasters experience, she is known for creating inspiring Black History Month programs, highlighting the talent of District 103 Toastmasters while imparting valuable information and celebrating our history. Sandra is a former global program manager in the credit card industry. She has traveled the world and expands and manages airport lounge programs. Sandra has been nominated for Discover's prestigious President's Award for exceptional performance. Now, semi-retired, she continues to mentor and inspire others while enjoying life as a wife, mother, and proud grandmother to 6-year-old twin boys. Please help me welcome Sandra Lane, distinguished Toastmaster, past district director.
Thank you. Command and Connect, the Body Language Advantage. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and Speechcrafters. Did you know that over 50% of communication is nonverbal? Think about a time where you heard a speech or a presentation and it just went, It flatlined. Did you realize what was missing from that presentation? Was it the content? Was it delivery? Well, today I want to show you why body language is not just an accessory to your words, but the key to making you command and connect, thus allowing your message to land with impact. Why is body language so important? It's important because communication is way more than the word. It gives more communication than what our words could provide. Research has told us that just 7% of our message is conveyed by the words that we speak. And 38% comes from the tone in our voice. Here's the kicker. Over 50%, or the majority of the message, is coming from your body language. Now think about this. Before you even open your mouth, your audience has already, to some degree, prejudged based on how you are dressed, your confidence, your credibility, your enthusiasm, just by how you carry yourself. People are making perceptions about you. For example, Elizabeth, I apologize. Do you forgive me? How do you receive that?
Not
Huh?
authentic.
Okay, I'll try that again. Elizabeth, I apologize. Do you forgive me? Can you tell the difference in those two presentations? I said the same words. My hands were folded. I looked a little scowl. I didn't say it warmly. The second time I was open, I leaned in, looked in your face, and said the same words, but I'm sure they were received differently. I'll try this again. Greetings, fellow speechcrafters. I'm so excited to deliver a presentation to you about body language. Versus, greetings, fellow speechcrafters. I am so excited to come and give you a presentation about body language. The first one probably lands flat. You may not even be convinced that you want to hear me speak. The second one at least shows some enthusiasm and sincerity in me being here. So if your words say one thing and your body says something else, what do you think people will believe? They're going to believe the body. Thank you, Elizabeth. It is important that we pay attention to what our body is saying. If our words are congruent with what our body language, people will believe us. On the other hand, it is important to be considerate of our gestures, our facial expressions. And this was mentioned earlier about smiling and making sure that we look happy and having fun. Our posture is important. If I speak to you and I'm sitting straight or standing straight, it's going to be a lot more meaningful than if I'm slouched and looking like I really don't want to be here. So what's really important is that our gestures, our facial expressions, our posture, and our tone should align with the message that we are conveying. Just like when I gave that apology. Have you ever received an apology that did not feel sincere because they said the words, but the body language was not congruent with the message? So what key things do we need to know? What are the elements of body language that we need to be mindful of? As I mentioned, posture is important. We always want to stand tall or sit tall because it exudes confidence, or slouching suggests uncertainty. Eye contact
It's important that I look at you in the screen so I can feel like, or you can feel like, that I am speaking to you, that I am connecting with you. Have you ever been on a Zoom call and someone's doing a speech, but they're looking at their speech over on the other screen? That's not a good connection, is it? Your gestures. It's important that our gestures are natural, that they are purposeful, and most important, they should emphasize the point we're trying to make. Now, what we don't want to do is overuse them and look like we're fidgeting. And if you're standing, you don't want to have your hands in your pocket or have a nervous click or clicking of a pen. Those things take away from your delivery and your speech. We mentioned this earlier, facial expressions. A smile, a raised eyebrow, a nod. They convey emotion and authenticity. It allows the audience to feel connected with what you're saying. And then finally, movement. It's hard to move a lot when we're behind a Zoom screen, but when you're in person, utilize, and as Toastmasters, we've heard this before, utilize your space. Move to the left, connect with the audience on the left side, then move to the right, connect with the audience on the other side. And have those pauses to let those messages sink in. Those are some of the key body language points that we should always consider when we're giving a speech. Things to avoid, just like in that unsincere apology, hands crossed. Even when you're meeting people and having conversation, closed hands like this suggest being closed off and not receptive. So you pretty much don't want to have closed off or crossed arms in a presentation. You want to avoid hands in pockets and nervous movement. And eye contact, very important. And you want to avoid having too many gestures so that it seems like you're not sincere. So those are things you definitely want to consider when you're writing your speech. What are the appropriate hand movements or movements around the stage that will help solidify that point to make sure that your message in words is congruent with the message with your body language? So as I close, your body speaks before you utter a word. So make sure it's saying what you want. The next time that you step up to speak, let your body language speak as powerful as your words. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for an amazing, educational, and definitely informative speech, Sandra. We appreciate you. I am going to turn, as I did before with Gerald, now with you, Sandra, to our speech crafters to see if they have any questions. First up, Gerald, any questions you have for Sandra?
Sure. My question is, what does she think is the most important movement in doing a speech?
I think that varies on the speech. I mean, when we are behind the Zoom screen, I think Letitia asked you about your hands. When you're behind or at the Zoom meeting, hand motions may not be that critical because you can only see, the top third of our body. But you can use them when you're trying to emphasize a point. We can use our hands up, we can do the finger. It depends on what point we're trying to make. So I think on Zoom, connecting with the screen, so not looking away, not reading your presentation on another screen. So to definitely appear like we're looking at each person's eyes, talking to you directly, and your hand gestures should really be dependent on what your message is and how that hand movement can emphasize what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Gerald. And thank you, Sandra, for that response. Let's turn to Dr. Keisha. Any questions from you for Sandra?
Sandra, awesome speech. Sometimes, even though we know it, it's good to hear it again. You're absolutely right about facing your audience, not crossing your hands live, because a lot of the speeches have gone back to live in person when you're standing up. Like one really crucial advice for when you're standing up at the podium.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was, what is the crucial advice when standing at the podium?
Live, yeah, in front of an audience instead of a Zoom.
I think when you are in person, if you have memorized the speech and comfortable enough and can move around, that is probably very impactful because that allows you to connect with people on one side and connect with the other side. Even if you're behind the podium, again, I would say hands gestures just to emphasize what is being said.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Keisha and Sandra, for that great answer. Let's go down to Elizabeth. Any questions from you for Sandra?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Speechcraft Coordinator. Thank you, Speechcraft speaker, Sandra. So I appreciated everything that you said tonight, and I loved your closing. Your body speaks before you utter a word. I'd like to ask you personally, how difficult was the transition from speaking in person to speaking virtually? Because that did happen. And so how difficult was that for you in your presentations, from speaking in front of an audience to speaking on the small screen?
That's a tough question to answer because in some ways it became easier because you're sitting at a desk. But there was a downside to that too. When I'm speaking in front of people, I tend to probably rehearse more and make sure it's a little bit more memorized because I'm going to be in front of people. So I think Zoom has given us a little bit of a crutch in some ways because you can almost have your paper, no one sees it, you can look down. So to me, that's one of those double-edged swords. It may have been a little bit easier on Zoom, but for us to really grow, I think in-person meetings are the way to go because you are standing in front of an audience. That's the opportunity to fully utilize this body language that I've just spoke about, where sitting behind the desk, you're limited. So again, it's tough. More preparation needed for the in-person because of trying to memorize a whole speech without using your notes too much, where you could get away with a little bit more behind, on the Zoom screen. So I do think that has hurt us, Toastmasters overall, because we've become, and I'm going to call a spade, we've become lazy. So it helped us and it hurt us at the same time. So that's my authentic answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate I appreciate your transparency. Thank you. Back to you,
Right,
Madam Speechcraft Coordinator.
Great question, Elizabeth, and definitely a great answer, Sandra. Thank you. Let's turn now to Gail. Any questions from you for Sandra?
Yeah, well, thank you, Madam Speechcraft Coordinator. Sandra, that was very inspiring speech, very informative. I do have a question. Sometimes what I run into is that I try to memorize a speech, and then I have mental blocks where I can't remember exactly what it is. Okay, and when in these cases, how do you maneuver around that with maintaining eye contact with the audience and especially on Zoom, and you have to look at your notes. And so what is the best way to work your way around that?
If you have notes and your memory goes blank, look at your notes just to try to keep your presentation flowing the best you can. There's nothing wrong with using your notes. What we want to avoid is reading our speeches. So just to keep yourself at the right place and not to skip an important element of your speech, definitely refer to your notes, but not where you have to completely look away. They should be positioned where you can look down, see where you are, pick up that important point you want to make, and keep it going and flowing. It's okay to have a pause, just shouldn't be a long, long pause. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. That was very helpful. Appreciate it.
All right, wonderful question, Gail, and thank you, Sandra, for that great response. Let's hear from Letitia. Any questions from you for Sandra?
Thank you, Madam Speechcraft Coordinator. And thank you so much, Sandra. You know, everyone has asked you like all of the questions. So since I'm last for the first time, thank you, Terry. I got to come up with something, but this information is so appropriate. And as Dr. Keisha stated, it's a good reminder because as you and Gerald's speech presentations were similar as far as the body language. I agree that on Zoom, it's much different than it is in person. And with COVID and everything, a lot of us are doing this, you know, we're using Zoom because there's a lot of remote work now. So my job, for instance, I am remote and I'm doing a lot of presentations that are online. So I do think that it's very helpful though to help someone become more better at that because you're needing to operate a PowerPoint or whatever it is while you're also presenting. So in that instance, I think it's very helpful even that we do have that opportunity to practice that. So that is good. So my only question for you, you've answered everything and it was a great presentation. I don't have a hard question for you. So I'm gonna let you pass.
Well, you did ask Gerald about your hands, and I just
Yes.
wanted to say, I was like, oh, am I covering that in my presentation? So again, I
Uh-huh.
think when we're doing Zoom presentations, it's not necessarily that our hands are being shown in the screen, but only when there's a point that you want to make where your hand gestures are going to help support that point. So I think that's the most critical thing. So while we're presenting, it's not necessary to see the hands, but depending on what you're speaking on, and if there are hand gestures that will help that, then certainly use them.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank
Great
you.
presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Speechcraft Coordinator.
All right, thank you so much, Letitia. I love the way that you rolled it over. Like here's a comment, but a little bit of a question. And Sandra, before we let you all the way off the hook, I actually noted a question to ask you about, and it's between props and body language. Is there ever a time where it's okay to just use props instead of body language?
Well, prompts, I think, is a different type of, I mean, even though it's not considered body language, it goes along the same vein. It is supporting your message and it helps make your presentation stronger because you're using a visual that's going to help bring that point home. So, yes, prompts would be in replacement of or in lieu of doing something with your hands or your body and are definitely strong ways to make that speech or presentation more powerful. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And before we go to our roundtable, I'm going to ask that we just give either visually or using an emoji, just an expression here of love and thanks to our two presenters, Gerald as well as Sandra tonight. Wow. Both of you just knocked it out the park. Thank you for your presentations. When we are in our Toastmasters meetings, we don't have a chance often to ask questions of our speakers. It was important to me in pulling this together as Speechcraft coordinator that there be that opportunity for our speech crafters. but something we do in Toastmasters we call table topics. And with table topics, there's a question tossed out and someone is selected, or if they want, they can volunteer or be voluntold, as we like to call it, to answer that question. And the goal is to help an individual improve their impromptu speaking. Here with our Speechcraft program, toss out a question. And then I'll ask our speech crafters one at a time to just give a brief response. It can be just a few words or just 2 or 3 sentences of what you think. Our question tonight for our speech crafters roundtable is, what are your time management suggestions? And really quick, my suggestion is proper planning. I am a very proactive as opposed to reactive planner, and I find that really helps me with time management. Well, I wonder, Dr. Keisha, if you can tell us what helps you. How do you deal with time management?
Thank you for that question, Madam Speechcraft Coordinator. It's almost like a tongue twister. What I really like is using my Apple phone to put in my times and dates and reminders. Kind of try to get it in there. It really helps me when I get a message, and I like the fact that you always have it pop up to remind you when you have something to attend. For example, this Zoom, this Speechcraft. I put it in for a repeat every 2 weeks. Otherwise, I will forget. If you have a busy schedule, you will forget. And so that is definitely the way that I manage my time. And I appreciate the question, and back to you.
All right, I love it. Thank you, Dr. Keisha. Letitia, any time management suggestions you have for us?
Thank you for that question. I'm in Toastmasters because I have terrible time management skills, but they have improved so much in the last 2 years. So some of the things that I do like, actually one of my taglines in my email is proper planning prevents poor performance. So some of the things that I do is that in the morning, I block off maybe an hour of my calendar to look through everything that I have scheduled for that day. So I do that every day. I work with a day planner because I'm old school, but it's upstairs. So I got a day planner, one of those ones you got to turn through and they're pretty and get little stickers and stuff. I use that because I kind of like to see it in writing. My Apple phone, the alerts, that's a great reminder as well as a backup. So those are some of the things that I do. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. Thank you for that question.
I love it. Thank you as well. You and Dr. Keisha have given us some great suggestions. Let's hear what Elizabeth is going to suggest for time management. Any tips from you, Elizabeth?
Absolutely. What I recommend and what I am learning is that I am old school. But Napoleon Hill says that I need to write it down. Now, I don't know that he literally means write it down. It could be type it in, okay? But I am setting my schedule the night before so that I know what I should be doing, what I am expected to do, and what I want to do, so that I'm coordinating what's already on my schedule with what I have done in this day and want to carry over to another day or another time or even just tomorrow. So writing it down has really been helpful, has been very helpful. But of course, in modern times, it could be that I just go type it on some notes. But I am old school. I have a journal and I have a book and I'm physically writing it down, writing things down, because repetition helps with retention. So that's my little tip.
I love it. I love your response, Elizabeth. I'm like you because my thought is the electronics may conk out and then I'm in trouble. Thank you so much. Thank you for your old school method, which, look, it has lasted through the test of time.
Absolutely. I concur.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have 2 more speech crafters to hear from. Let's hear from Gail next. Gail, any time management ideas or suggestions that you have for us?
Well, I thank you for the question. Well, what I found that helps me is to prioritize what's the most important thing I need to get done in that time span, and then kind of coordinate some of the smaller things so that I can work congruently to get the major things done and also the minor things done. So I just work on, I'm old school too. So I work on writing down what is the most important thing and then how much time I need to allot to that. Do I need to just do like an hour to that and then other things just give it a half an hour? Or do I just need one day, concentrate on that thing and then the the subsequent days do something that it's, the minor or, what is best for my schedule. So I am old school. I write it down and concentrate initially on what is the most important thing, the most important priority, and then work down from there. Mm, And that's it. And thank you for the question. Back to you, the Madam Speech Coordinator.
I love it. I love, love, love your response, Gail. I'm glad that Elizabeth and I are not alone in our old school ways, but I love that you added, Gail, the prioritization and the importance of that because oftentimes all of us will have a laundry list of things to do, but we must prioritize that. Thank you for stressing that. And we have one more speech crafter who did double duty today as also a presenter. We have to hear from him yet again here. Gerald, would you like to share some of your time management tips, suggestions, ideas, however you'd like to label it with us?
Thank you, Madam Speechcrafter. One of my ideas is because of the fact that I'm poor and poverty stricken and I have an Android phone, instead of putting things in an Apple phone like the top 1% gets to do, me being part of the bottom 99%, I put it in an Android phone. I believe there's an app that's called Calendar. And especially if there's a trip, I try to put the trip into the phone and put the plane that I'm going to take if I'm flying. Sometimes, when you're going off on a cruise, you have to swim off to the port and catch the boat. But in case you happen to be going on it by taxi or somewhere to the place, it's good to put all the numbers down in the calendar, especially like flight numbers and different types of information. By putting it in the phone, that way you can have it. And in order for your electricity not to run out, I heard they came out with this new invention called the portable charger, and you carry one of those with you, and that sort of helps with the electricity also. So those are the ways that I do in order to take up. And I love the idea of going old school with the pen and paper, but sometimes pens run out of ink and sometimes you have to write. And being that I'm going to my 7th century, my writing isn't all that good. So it's good to type it in there. Even though I know Napoleon Hill always said to write it down, but that was in his time frame. But Napoleon Hill didn't have an iPhone or Android phone or anything like that. So it worked for him. But back there, he was only trying to make millions of dollars. And today, people, especially those on this list, are trying to make billions of dollars. So you got to be that much more technical in what you get. So I believe in the power of the Android, a charger, and then tell somebody who can remind you. Madam Speechcrafter.
All right. I need to pull myself back together. Your response was outstanding and definitely funny as usual. We're accustomed, some of us, from the New Faith Toastmasters Club to your amazing humor. Thank you so much, Gerald, and thank you for being partially old school, like Elizabeth and Gail and I, and also probably more like Letitia and Dr. Keisha, maybe Sandra as well with the iPhone. I have an Android, so I'm a bit like you, Gerald. I don't know if it's stubbornness or cheapness that I have not moved over, but I'm an Android type of person. I think I'll be Android girl all my life. We'll see.
That means you'll only be a millionaire.
Terry, just so you
Elizabeth and
know,
Keisha are going to be billionaires.
Terry, I was an Android fan, and the only reason I have an iPhone, my daughter and her husband made me, they went and bought the phone. I was team Android all the way.
Was it worth the
My
switch?
family forced me to switch over.
Oh no. Now I have to ask Dr. Keisha Letitia, team Android or team iPhone, which are you?
Definitely iPhone.
Okay,
But I would like to ask
iPhone.
Sandra, do you regret it? Would you go back or do you like it now? Or
I'm used to it now. In the beginning, I was just fussing all the time, but but my sister, who is still Android, she has some phone that opens up and that I absolutely love. So the verdict is still out whether I will go back or just stick with iPhone. But I will say the Find My Phone feature did win me over. But I think they have that in Android now too.
oh,
And
Well,
Letitia, I think you said you are team iPhone.
and the same iPhone Apple lady, I've been using an Apple Macintosh computer since I was
Woo!
in mm,
The Civil War.
a long time, like Civil War, right? No, since I was before in eighth grade. So we had Apple computers when we were learning in school. So I just kind of adopted to that, and I've always used an Apple. So I always have to learn how to use the regular computer, well, the other one, the Windows computer, at work. So I can multitask, but I am a team Apple. I've never had an Android phone. My significant other, my boyfriend is an Android person, so we fight all the time about team Android and Apple. I love those commercials that they have on television where they're at the war. So it's cute. I'm gonna go with team Apple.
Okay, Apple.
iPhone.
And I think let's check with our other two speech crafters. We turned this into a second table topic. Elizabeth, I
I'm
think you were cheering
I'm
for
team
iPhone.
Apple. I'm team Apple. I'm sorry. Yeah, iPhone. It's an Apple
iPhone.
phone.
Uh-oh.
And
I'm
Uh-oh,
team
Joe.
Android.
no,
And Gail is Android, but Gail, Gerald, the three of us are outnumbered. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I only
but
want to
that's
be
okay.
a millionaire, a billionaire. I'll leave to the other ones.
Well, everyone, thank you for tonight. A special thank you again to our presenter Gerald and our presenter Sandra, all of our speech crafters that are on board here, Elizabeth, Letitia, Gail, Dr. Keisha, and doing double duty. Gerald, thank you so much for being here as a speech crafter and a presenter. And also, I must say a special hello to our listeners. We not only have our presenters that are here and our speech crafters that are here, but we have a few others that are just listening in, just checking things out and participating by way of the listening ear. Thank you, Mike and Carol, for being on board here from the Hispano Americano Toastmasters Club. I have to give that plug for my other club, and the other one being the New Faith Toastmasters Club. Everyone, we have one more speech craft that is left. Session 4 will occur in 2 weeks. I'll look forward to seeing all of you then. And until that time, enjoy the rest of your night. Take good care and bye bye for now.